coronavirus reaching right into the White House. Two people close to the president and vice president now testing positive. Some White House workers are now being tested daily. And tonight we take note of the toll. The virus has taken more than 80,000 lives now in our country. Late today, the president saying he has ordered changes at the White House. At the Rose Garden event, the press secretary seen wearing a mask, as well as members of the Secret Service and the president's senior advisor, son-in-law Jared Kushner. 3 task force members were not there: the CDC director, the FDA commissioner, and Dr. Anthony Fauci, all of whom are now under self-quarantine or some kind of modified quarantine after possible exposure to one of the White House staffers. Often at those task force meetings, Katie Miller, the vice president's press secretary, who is now tested positive. The vice president was not seen at today's event, but his office says he has tested negative and will not quarantine.
Overnight, the White House making the historic decision to separate the president and vice president. Senior officials confirming President Trump and Vice President Pence will be kept apart due to coronavirus concerns, saying the two will maintain distance from each other in the immediate future.
We can talk on the phone.
The temporary separation comes after a Pence aide tested positive last week. ABC News has learned the vice president spent Monday away from the Oval Office wearing a mask while working in a neighboring building as the White House adopts new safety measures.
Just about everybody I've seen today has worn a mask.
The president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, seen wearing a mask during a Rose Garden news conference.
I wish you'd write honestly about it, but unfortunately, you choose not to do so.
The president coming in with a positive message.
We have met the moment, and we have prevailed.
Applauding the country's testing efforts.
We've prevailed on testing is what I'm referring to. There's nobody close to us in the world, and we certainly have done a great job on testing.
But our John Carl pointing out the contrast between testing at the White House versus everywhere else.
Your staff, your senior staff, as you just referenced, is able to get tested every day. When will it be that Americans across the country will be able to get tested every day as they go back to work?
Very soon. I mean, really very soon.
But should people be told to go back to work until they have that assurance that they and their co-workers are able to get a test, which we're still not there?
We're leaving that up to the governors, as you know.
A follow-up question drawing the president's ire.
So when will the rest of America have the same access that members of your own White House have to testing?
You know what? If we didn't get the tests, if we did no tests in the White House, you'd be up complaining, why aren't you getting tests for the White House? See, we can't win, because if we didn't get the test, you'd be up. I understand you very well, better than you understand yourself.
But it was this exchange between Trump and another reporter that led to an abrupt end to the news conference.
Said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Moments later, the president walking away.
Questions, Mr.
President. Next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish, but can I ask you
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill today, Dr. Anthony Fauci will testify to a Senate committee over video conference. The New York Times reporting Fauci is expected to tell senators that Americans will experience needless suffering and death if the country reopens prematurely.
The world is on lockdown.
In New York tonight, more cases of that mysterious illness threatening children, possibly linked to the coronavirus. Cases now reported in at least 6 other states as well. And tonight we're hearing from families on both coasts whose children battled this rare illness. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, the rare and dangerous illness possibly linked to COVID-19 infecting more children. At least 5 deaths now under investigation. The number of cases more than doubling in New York City. 38 children now falling ill with pediatric multi-system inflammatory syndrome. 85 cases across the state.
I'm deeply concerned. As a father, I am feeling the concern I know other parents are feeling.
At least 6 states reporting cases, including Washington, where 13-year-old Anthony Lawson nearly died.
Anthony just was getting worse, and things just didn't seem quite right.
Anthony's family thought he was suffering from allergies, but in a matter of days, he became critically ill.
Take them to the hospital to get them checked out, because it truly could be the difference between life and death.
Anthony tested negative for the virus, but positive for antibodies. Tonight, doctors urging parents to be on the lookout for a persistent fever, rash, red eye irritations, and stomach illness. These symptoms similar to Kawasaki disease, which causes the inflammation of blood vessels.
After defying Governor Gretchen Whitmer's lockdown orders, considered by many in his state to be too restrictive. In business for 60 years, he won a court victory Monday in his fight to stay open. Supporters cheered Monkey outside his shop during a press conference after a judge denied the state's request to sign a temporary restraining order against the barber and granted him a hearing.
1 week ago today, I made a decision that I was going to open my barber shop. There's an old serenity prayer. That serenity prayer says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I took the courage part of that.
Monkey reopened his shop on May 4th, violating the governor's executive order for non-essential businesses to remain closed, and was given a cease and desist order.
You know, I had gone 6 weeks without a paycheck, with no money coming in. I've always worked. I've never looked for handouts. I don't even know what they are. I had somebody call me and say, well, why didn't you get on food stamps? Well, you know, I don't want food stamps. I want to work.
Monkey says he's never seen anything like the government regulations during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I've gone through 14 different administrations, and I've never seen anything like this at all.
Monkey isn't alone in Michigan. A county sheriff says his office won't enforce Governor Whitmer's stay-at-home order intended to stop the spread of the coronavirus because the state legislature didn't approve her extension. And across the country, Americans are going back to work, often despite stay-at-home orders. In Texas, a Dallas salon owner continues to get support from the state's top Republicans after being released from jail last week. Shelley Luther was fined and sentenced to 7 days in jail for violating an order to shut her business during the COVID-19 outbreak. Senator Ted Cruz recently sat down for a trim at Luther's salon a la mode. In Pennsylvania, some are also moving ahead regardless of the governor's plans. Frustrated residents say they're ready to get back to work.
This is wrong on every single level, and the collateral damage is going to be far worse.
I don't think it's a matter of the governor giving me the right. I think it's an inalienable right.
And the state at the center of the coronavirus outbreak, New York, taking its first steps towards reopening, but no major changes until June.
It's an exciting new phase. We're all anxious to get back to work.
And for now, a growing number of Americans worried about the economic damage from the lockdowns say it's time to go back to work.
Tonight, as researchers race to develop a vaccine for the coronavirus, hackers from China and other countries are working just as furiously to steal that research to create their own. CBS's Charlie D'Agata now on how the administration plans to respond.
Intelligence sources tell CBS News Chinese state-backed hackers have been mobilized and laser-focused with one target in mind. Robert Hannigan is the former director of GCHQ, Britain's version of the NSA.
The most valuable intellectual property in the world right now is to do with COVID vaccines, no questions.
The U.S. is expected to issue a warning about China after previously accusing Beijing of recruiting researchers and students to steal data.
How critical is the situation at the moment?
I think talking to people in the healthcare sector and in the academic world, they do feel under siege at the moment from these
state actors.
Under siege.
They're hitting the supply chain, anything to do with COVID-19 related research for vaccines, tests, and treatments. University labs, medical facilities, government agencies, pharmaceutical companies, every association a potential weak link. Now add in working from home, thousands of people on laptops with vulnerable software.
It sounds like a hacker's paradise.
Yeah, it's made the playground much bigger.
In the race to find a cure, it's not just the good guys giving chase.
Israel's security cabinet has just convened for the first time in months, but it's off to a running start for the cabinet members as Israel must now decide how and if to respond against a serious attack from Iran. According to a Fox News report, the Islamic regime has just conducted a cyber attack targeting Israel's civil, water, and sewage infrastructure. And though the attack did minimal damage, some facilities and local councils have reported problems. And unnamed officials from the government say that this is an attack that goes against all the codes of war, adding that even from the Iranians, we didn't expect something like this. Now, the attack had been conducted in late April on numerous water and sewage facilities via United States servers, and the Israeli Water Authority and National Cyber Directorate have dealt with the attack, insisting that no harm has come to either the water supply or its operations. Finally, the United States Department of Energy also vows to do what it can to protect all of its allies from cyber attacks. Though in speaking with Fox News, the department would not comment on this incident in particular, saying that an investigation is ongoing.
Ambulances and the military race to the scene of an attack on some of Afghanistan's most vulnerable. Gunmen storming a hospital compound in the capital, Kabul, where the aid organisation Doctors Without Borders runs a maternity clinic. New mothers and babies are among the victims.
A man wearing military uniform who looked like a wrestler entered the clinic and opened fire on patients' relatives at the gate.
Other attackers reportedly threw grenades, provoking panic inside, and a gun battle with security forces.
The attackers were shooting at anyone in this hospital for no reason. It's a government hospital, and a lot of people bring in their women and children for treatment.
While the firefight was underway, dozens of people were led to safety, the injured transferred to other hospitals.
I brought my newborn grandchild for a vaccination and suddenly the explosion happened. I don't remember anything after that. I was in the middle of the hospital, but then I found myself outside and hit by a bullet.
The neighbourhood in the west of the city is home to the Shia Hazara community, a frequent target of attacks by both the Taliban and ISIL-linked groups. And at a hospital in the eastern province of Nangarhar, more chaotic scenes, after a suspected suicide bomber targeted a crowd gathered nearby for a funeral.
There were a lot of bodies laying on the ground. Some of them were dead and some of them were injured.
The victims bundled into ambulances, taxis and pickup trucks, anything to get them to medical help quickly. Some of the injured were treated on stretchers on the floor, the hospital overwhelmed. And the surviving mourners left planning.
Home invasion on Staten Island as a man and a woman are killed and another woman is critically hurt. Ana de Souza and Alafia Rodriguez were killed inside their home in Mariners Harbor. Responding officers say they arrested an armed man who was trying to leave the house. A one-year-old girl believed to be de Souza's daughter was found inside unharmed. The woman who was wounded is in critical condition at this hour. No word yet on a motive.
New tonight, Garland police have made an arrest in the shooting death of a woman. This is near the gas pumps at a Walmart. Police say that 33-year-old Jessica Watkins was going car to car talking with people. When she started talking to 28-year-old Aaron Haas, police say he, for some reason, pulled out a gun and shot her before he took off from that scene. Police later arrested him at a home in Rockwall.
We're following breaking news this morning out of Bear, Delaware. Police have now identified the man they say shot and killed an elderly husband and wife on the grounds of the Delaware Veterans Memorial Cemetery on Friday morning. One of those victims died yesterday. Delaware State Police say 29-year-old Sheldon C. Francis shot the couple before getting into a gun battle with police. After Francis ran into the woods, investigators say he was discovered dead from a gunshot wound. It remains unclear how Francis is related to the couple. The shooting has officially been ruled a homicide investigation.
You know well, because you may be one of them, tens of millions of Americans are now unemployed and running out of money. The rest have to worry about losing their constitutional rights. In fact, many of them are gone. But one group of Americans has no worry at all about getting whatever they want: the homeless. In San Francisco, anyway, officials are putting up the homeless for free in city hotels and supplying them with free alcohol, drugs, and nicotine. Why are they doing this exactly? Joe Alioto is a former San Francisco city supervisor and DA candidate. He joins us tonight. Joe, thanks so much for coming on. I can't think of a clearer signal to taxpayers, citizens, people who try to do the right thing, stay sober, that we just hate you and are spending all of our time on people, you know, who are contributing. I mean, honestly, people, I mean, why would they be giving the homeless free stuff? I don't understand.
Well, it's not just that. The worst part about it is that we are taking a very vulnerable population and we're feeding their addictions. And we're not using taxpayer dollars to do that, which begs the question, why is, where is this money coming from? And is the reason why we're not using taxpayer dollars is because it would otherwise not be legal to do. I mean, we know that's true on the federal level anyway. But the idea that the government can poison a few people for the good of the many it's immoral. This has been debated over years. It's unconstitutional. It's very un-American, for that matter, and by federal standards illegal, which probably explains why some of the hotels, as you've read, in the Los Angeles area are refusing to participate in the housing of the homeless.
So the Los Angeles City Council, I know you're from North End San Francisco, is threatening to, quote, commandeer hotels that don't want to become homeless shelters. I mean, just the level of concern. Right. I mean, so, and I'm for helping the homeless. So many of them are mentally ill and need actual help. They don't want to need to live on the sidewalk. But the level of concern, all the concern seems to be for the homeless. And like, what about people who are trying really hard to do well for their kids and make the society better? Like, they're totally ignored. Why?
That's right, especially with the food shortage. We should be feeding their stomachs, not their addictions. I guess they feel as though the rest of us can fend for ourselves. But I think the real concern here by the Department of Health, to give them a little bit of credit, is that they don't want to spread the COVID disease. Now, the facts don't pan out because some of these homeless people who are being housed in the hotels that are specific to this program that we're giving them methadone, marijuana, and alcohol, some of them are not even COVID positive. But what they're trying to do is force them into self-isolation by feeding these addictions. And there's something very wrong about that. These are people that are otherwise not legally detained, but the city is saying, no, we want to make sure you stay in these hotel rooms so you don't poison other people, and we're going to feed your addictions to make sure that you stay there. There's something very cruel about that. And the fact that, we're not taking care of the rest of the city in many ways and feeding some of the hungry people and not focusing on the hunger issues and not the addiction issues is very troubling.
You may be at church. You may be at work. You may be asleep. God grant that you will be ready when He makes His personal appearance. My God, what if His appearance occurs on a Sunday morning? My prophetic word to you this morning is get ready, get ready!